Hello and welcome back to another live Grey Beyond Narrative session. We have a fascinating discussion planned for you today. We will dig deeper into the Dutch political landscape with a particular focus on the divisive figure of Geert Wilders. We're going to look at recent 2023 Dutch general election to Wilders' political ideology, stance on Islam and blasphemy, and some of his most controversial statements. We'll also go over his party official stance on Islam and immigration, the Party of Freedom. I would like to inform with some of the development right now regarding the topic. Geert Wilder has been called a Dutch Donald Trump. He's been threatened with death countless times by Islamic extremists. He has been convicted of insulting Moroccans, and Britain also once banned him from entering the country. Uh, Now, Geert Wilders has won a massive victory in a Dutch election and is in pole position to form the next governing coalition and possibly become the Netherlands' next prime minister. Uh, Now, everyone's invited to join the discussion through the link and share your ideas and perspective. Now I'm going to move forward to Shaji. Shaji.
Okay, thank you very much. My opinion on this actual subject of Geert Wilders being elected is boiling down to the fact I'm going to go through a bit of history first. In 1998, that was the first time this person was elected in the parliament. And later on, I think it was 2008 when he made a movie. Yeah, 2008, he made a movie by the name of Fit Nine. He came into prominence. Post that, Geert Wilders uh, was banned from the United Kingdom. And one of the things which I would like to clearly highlight in terms of my opinion is that when people say that he's a Donald Trump of Netherlands, I would see it as an opposite. Post 2008, Geert Wilders was uh, one of the only far right politicians in entire Western diaspora, which includes United States as well as continental Europe, uh, to have garnered support. He connected the far right from EDO in the UK. He supported Le Pen. He went to Texan tea parties to garner support. And I would say a lot of initial days when Trump did not even think he was and his organization happened to be one of the people who were sponsors of these auditoriums where Geert Wilders would speak. We saw him go as far as Australia and other countries, even Israel, in terms of advocating for the far right movement in various ways. He has resorted time and again in making those statements that Islam is a fascist ideology, and I see this as a huge problem in those regards. The other aspect I would like to highlight is one of the reasons he says that they cannot in Netherlands control immigration is due to the fact that immigration is and sovereignty of Netherlands as a whole is controlled by the EU. So not only is this something to worry about in those terms, it is hugely worrisome for EU as an organization, where this gentleman has basically said he'd called for a referendum and he'll refer to it as a Nexit. So it's twofold. But from where I see, there would be issues with Muslims and fascism, and obviously, already, if for example, Le Pen and EDL in the UK were to be considered as supporters, and you can see that they have been very quick to jump on the bandwagon in support of him. If this is a wave, this is going to be very interesting to see how what the outcome is going to be, both for the EU as well as for Muslims. That's all what I have to say. Thank you very much. Please move to the next slide.
Shaji, I would like to ask a little bit of questions in that regard. What do you think are the ground realities in Netherlands, such that the far right, I don't know if I should call him a far right or a right leaning politician, uh, to gain such support? I mean, he did win the elections with a very huge margin. What are the ground reasonings behind it in the Dutch public, in the Dutch society? Because
Secondly, first of all, he has not secured the election. He's just So first of all, Geert Wilders has not secured the election outrightly. He needs to form a coalition government. He's won 37 seats. He requires another 40 to form a government. But the fact of the matter is, this is how the Dutch system works. There has not been many governments in Netherlands or even in other countries in the European continent, which have worked without coalitions. So it is something to consider. 37 seats and requiring another 40 seats would mean a lot of things. So we cannot say this is an outright victory. Thank you.
So, what do you assume would be the shape of the Dutch politics in that regard? Uh, is Would it be as soon a reality in the Dutch politics and the Dutch policies that they will be able to dictate anti-immigrant or anti-Muslim policies? What would you assume the rest of the parties in the Dutch parliament uh, would react to it? And what can the Muslims of the Netherlands expect?
I don't understand what your question is. What do you mean by other parties? Please elaborate.
And there are other parties and other seats secured in the Dutch parliament, as Geert Wilders requires
So
40 to.
obviously, there are parties who don't want him to come into power, but obviously, if you're the largest majority party with 37 seats, and you require a further 40, there is going to be a lot of horse trading, what is known as horse trading, where there are going to be negotiations as to which of his policies he can keep and which of the policies he can't keep. And again, Netherlands has been traditionally known to be a very liberal kind of country and a society. So this coming out of that, the elements of that are still persistent over there, but still, in terms of 37 seats, is you see Netherlands is not a very big country. 37 seats is with an overwhelming single party leadership. Uh, would mean some of those policies will come into action. How many, time will tell. What the negotiating parties will negotiate with him. Are they going to negotiate on the fact that they're going to go for a referendum in terms of exiting the EU, or if that is not going to be on the table? All of these things are going to be decided in the coming weeks. It's just watch and see kind of a conversation at this moment in time. Thank you.
Okay, I would like to add to what Shah just said. I think the PVV, I guess that's the acronym for the party Wilders is from. They are negotiating terms with other parties and trying to form a coalition, but they are still struggling. Uh, One of the main parties, there are multiple, but is the center-right Liberals Party, uh, and then they have certain reservations, uh, especially जो इनका manifesto है, Wilders की party का. They have certain clauses like they don't want any mosques in Netherlands, which also goes against constitution. And I don't know how with that manifesto they were allowed to even run for elections. But if they were, uh, there are certain voices saying कि यार ये Netherlands के constitution के against है इनका manifesto, certain clauses. So that is the debate which is going on right now, and it's still not easy for them to form the government, and it's uh, not clear कि वो आएंगे पावर में या नहीं right now. But सबसे ज्यादा सीट्स उन्होंने ली हैं. I think 150 सीट्स हैं शाह, if I'm correct. आउट ऑफ विच इन्होंने 37 ली हैं.
Yes, yeah, 150.
हाँ, या तो इट्स नॉट मच, वन थर्ड भी नहीं ले सके ये. तो जो पॉपुलर ओपिनियन है, बाकी
Uh,
पार्टीज
uh,
भी. हम्म, जी जी शाह जी.
no, no, continue. Sorry.
हाँ, बाकी पार्टीज का भी वोट बैंक है. एंड इट शोज के इट्स नॉट द होल कंट्री स्टैंडिंग बिहाइंड this person. So we should put that forward and then continue the discussion. Shaji, if you want to add something, please go ahead, and then we would move towards Andolanji.
I just wanted to basically state one factor. The thing is in Netherlands elections and the way the diaspora conducts its elections, this is a huge victory. This is the largest single parties a single party has ever acquired for a long, long time. So if for example, we're going to view this as something which occurs in the US or, say, the United Kingdom or Pakistan or India. It seems to be a minority in terms of its percentage, even. But this is the highest any party has achieved in terms of single seats in the Netherlands. So, if you view it in that context, it's a huge shift. Again, you have to see how many other parties are existent over there, and on top of that, or to how many of those parties would you categorize as center parties, how many of them are right to even Geert with us, and how many are left, and that is going to be the deciding factor. So what you're seeing is basically, in my opinion at least, an equilibrium point. What Netherlands is about to debate is it going to go to the far right, or is there going to be some kind of a rescuing where it's going to come a bit to the center again? But anyhow, thank you very much for the time.
Thank you, Shaji. Andolanji, I'll move to you next. Please go ahead with your comments. You know what the topic is. You might have heard uh, what Shah said and Medusa had to say. So please go ahead.
I also mentioned this, I think, in the last discussion and debate that, the mood in Europe and America has shifted. And this is uh, due to, so what you're seeing is, I think, the reason of the discussion is the current Netherlands winning candidates viewpoint towards Islam, right? That's the cause of the discussion. Now, while few people hold this view 10 years, 15 years, 20 years back, but the conduct of the, diaspora in the European and the US spaces have actually gone ahead and, created a consensus in larger section of majority that this is a concern area. And we were discussing the Israel-Palestine issue about a month back, and there also I highlighted this fact that the protest, while most of them were peaceful, but the reasons of the protest and protest supporting, there was no condemnation of terrorist attack by wider sense of the Islamic community, so as to say. Of course, a lot of people in your panel had condemned the violence, but overall the perception which the Western as well as a lot of other neutral nations, as we call it, where democratic, which are secular in nature, right? They got a perception that this particular diaspora has a particular bent of mind which supports violence. And that is why I pointed out that the statements coming out from largely neutral, even we are talking about right wing parties. I gave you examples of liberal parties like the one in France, like the one in Germany, like the one in US. I mean, Biden is part of the liberal ecosystem. French president is part of the liberal ecosystem. So on and so forth. Their stances have seen a key switch in the last 2 3 months itself. The kind of statements that they are now openly speaking, which were earlier in hush. Now, see the discussions in parliament. This is coming up as a cause of concerns across many European parliaments, where people, what Netherlands Prime Minister states, is currently being discussed in many parliaments across. European Western countries. So, and second is, you also have to understand when you look at, and since you are close to a particular ideology which you believe to be yours, and once you see somebody opposing it or not allowing it to expand in its horizon, you also have to take into consideration the states where Islamic society rules. Do they allow the same kind of leverage? So, let me take example of Middle East. Huge Indian diaspora, huge Hindu diaspora. For ages, still today, I mean, except for maybe one or two countries, you don't even allow places of worship for Hindus in any of these Middle Eastern countries, maybe barring an exception of UAE, right? So, when you want to curtail, one particular ideology from the states that you rule, you should have to give that leverage also to the Netherlands Prime Minister to curtail an ideology which he believes should be curtailed. So,
Ji,
that's the opening point I wanted to make. Yeah.
Thank you, Andolunji. If I may, let's not compare for the sake of discussion with certain Muslim countries. You might be able to highlight the hypocrisy, and I agree to that extent. But when we are talking about the West, we should compare it with uh, the Western Hemisphere, the global North. Uh, the policies there, the freedom of speech, the freedom of practice, freedom of expression, ये इस तरह की टर्म्स हैं जो कि उधर यूज होती हैं उसमें जब
And
ये
that's
शख्स आके
that's
नहीं नहीं
precisely the reason.
जी जी
Huh.
आंदोलन जी लेकिन जब ये शख्स आके starts emphasizing and they have it in their manifesto as well to ban all mosques, ban Quran, जब प्रैक्टिस ना करने दिया जाए क्योंकि वी हैव हैड सच डिस्कशंस के प्रैक्टिसेस पे नहीं आइडियोलॉजी और उसकी जो इम्प्लीकेशंस होती हैं सोसाइटी पे उसको कर्टेल करने के लिए आई एग्री इन अ वे with you on that but जो practices की बात है that already goes against the constitution in Netherlands as well and that's the main critique जो कि इस पे होती रही है since long जब तक इसने अपना स्टांस थोड़ा सा डाइल्यूट करके माइल्ड नहीं किया था इसे वोट्स नहीं मिल रहे थे तो ये आइडियोलॉजी की बात नहीं है देयर इज अ सर्टेन फोबिया बिहाइंड इट दैट्स माय होल पॉइंट तो उस पे आप क्या कहेंगे
See, I don't see this as a phobia. I think, phobia, and specifically, within Islam, Islamophobia is being very loosely used. So somewhere I think it has lost its relevance also. So somebody even talks and says Islam, and, the first thing that comes out from somebody else's mouth to your Islamophobia, right? So, the point which I'm making out here is quite simple. When you talk about Western values of gaining concurrence of freedom of speech, pursuing things with a democratic manner and through concurrence. He precisely did that, right? I mean, the guy is not going on a war with something, right? He's not using machetes, he's not using, guns, to force people into agreeing to things. He rules a state, or he intends to rule a state, and he wants to create a particular policy framework. And he wants to express his opinion as well as make policies and basis concurrence in a democratic process. Right? These are the Western values. Now, some policies may suit everyone, some policies may not. But if that's a state following a concurrence ecosystem, not forcing or shoving it down the throat of the people, of course, in a democracy, not 100% people would be aligned. But if he able to get a decent amount of people to concur and get the policy changes with it, that's Western values, right?
okay thank you Dolanji Shaji if you would like to add to this point because I think legislation is one of the major tools which is more effective than guns और वो जो implement होता है ना वो for generations रहता है तो जी शाह जी
I can only add one thing. First of all, we don't know what the negotiations are going to be. I think what majority of the political parties in Netherlands case are going to be more interested in is in the first priority is somehow avoid the Nexit or the referendum for EU somehow
Am I the only one who's losing the voice, or his
that
voice
is
is
Uh,
going
cracking?
to be the priority of majority of those organizations, those political. Am I audible? Can you guys hear me?
Ji,
Am I
sir.
audible?
Ji, sir. Ji. Now we can.
Am I audible?
Yes,
Thank you.
yes, we can.
Okay. So what I was basically stating is that that is completely dependent upon the political parties whose, if you notice, majority of the political parties in Netherlands, they are pro-Europe. And one of the things which Geert Wilders has time and again for more than a decade or so has promoted and negotiated, tried to negotiate, and even when Brexit was occurring, his MEPs in the European Parliament supported Nigel Farage. For those who are unfamiliar with who Nigel Farage was, he was the main orchestrator of Brexit and the enforcer of it. It was he who kind of garnered the kick-starting of what ended up as Britain going out of the EU. So if you notice and if you see how Geert Wilders and his political party supported Nigel Farage's UKIP party is a prime example. Every time Le Pen in France has stated the same thing, and you can see like the likes of Katie Hopkins, who've come out all of a sudden from under a rock, all partying and stuff. For those who don't know, she's basically a far right racist activist who's well known, who was fired from major media centers like for example, LBC, which is London Broadcasting Service, and various other places. But I think that is going to be the main negotiation. Somehow the European Union will enforce that as well. As far as the Muslims and his deals in regards to that are concerned, again, that is going to be a secondary thing, and that is why this is very dangerous, in my opinion at least. But let's see what happens.
Shaji,
So,
I would like to ask you here that what do you think was the deriving force for Gret Wilders to get such popular so many seats? Was it the anti-Islamic uh, uh, stances, or are his other policies more popular in the Dutch public?
What do you mean?
What I'm trying to ask you is that uh, for after a very long time, somebody in the Dutch political system has garnered so many seats. I mean, he has a major chunk in the parliament. From the view of the public, uh, do you think that the driving force for such popularity was his anti Islamic stance, or is the Dutch public supporting Geert Wilders for the rest of the policies that he is trying to incur? For example, getting out of EU or his immigration policies
Oh, the
and
reason he wants to get out of EU is to control immigration from and stop immigration and ban Islam or Islamic some of the Islamic practices. So his very primary reason, which he's indicated a lot of times, is that Netherlands is no longer sovereign because they have to take dictation from the EU. So till that happens, they cannot change the immigration and human rights laws within their own country. And once they happen to do that, the only way they'll be able to do that is by leaving the EU, and that is the main obstacle. So that is why it's a huge nightmare for EU. Geert Wilders knows that if he wants to implement some of the things which he has negotiated or won the election on, uh, again, he will have to call for that referendum. So probably European Union is getting nightmares as we speak. On top of that, one of the things you have to see is that Geert builders did not have these many seats or this much popularity even till last year. So what changed? Now, if you look at Netherlands internally, what you'll see is that the cost of living has gone up, which is cross Europe due to the Russian-Ukrainian war and post-COVID.
Mm.
In fact, in the entire continent, there is such a thing as cost of living crisis, which has been officially announced. And again, this is something which was followed by Geert Builders. That's what he propagated. On top of that, it does not help that a lot of people, immigrants from Muslim countries, specifically Morocco, as well as Turkey and Pakistan, happen to be residing in Netherlands as well as across Europe in countries like Germany and whatnot, and many of them end up claiming the social welfare. And there's a lot of crime rate in those areas as it happens in the criminal areas. So all this has basically added up, and that's why it's come to this situation. Thank you very much.
So, uh, Gert Wilders winning so many seats, we can assume, is showing the public perception of the Dutch public. Uh,
I ask a question here, Shaji? So you're saying that because of the all the criminal activities in the West of Muslims have caused all this. But if you notice, how did most of the Muslim landed there? I mean, a lot of refugees went to Europe and other places, and these were not really, I mean, people from good backgrounds and stuff. And how? Why did the refugees go there? Because the West was busy throwing bombs on their homes. Maybe if West doesn't want Muslims to go there, they should stop bombing Muslim countries.
Most of the immigrants who are you done? I thought I can't hear you.
Yeah, I'm done. Yeah, there's some problem in the internet today.
No, I can hear you. Okay, so the thing is, first of all, majority of the people in Netherlands don't happen to be refugees. There is element of Afghans and Iraqis who came post their wars.
Shaji,
Majority of the
I'm
people.
not saying most of them. Shaji, I'm not saying they're refugees. I want to make a point here. Okay,
No, I'm
Shaji, I'm
just
not
giving a
saying they're
back.
refugees, right?
No,
No,
no, I'm giving a
let me just explain myself. Okay, let me just explain myself first. So what I'm saying is that most of these Muslim happens to go to Europe because their houses are bombed. Maybe they're not all refugees and they went legally. Like, take an example of Afghanistan, right? The Afghanistan is all messed up and all of the Afghani wants to go out of Afghanistan. Who's to blame for that? So that's what I'm
So
saying.
can I
West should stop bombing their homes.
So I
can I
And
give
was.
you a very
you
interesting
won't
statistic,
find Muslims in
Medusa?
Europe.
So
Ji?
Medusa, can I give a very interesting statistics to
Hold
you?
on, Andolanji. I was saying something. The thing is, first of all, most people of Muslim origin who make up the population in majority in Netherlands happen to be of Moroccan and Turkish descent, and none of them are in their majority refugees. As far as the refugees are concerned, that would be mainly the Somalis, Afghans, and also Iraqis, apart from a minority of Rwandans and a few other people. But these are the major groups. And if you look at majority of these people of Moroccan and Turkish and Pakistani descent, they are born and bred in Netherlands or around Europe. You've got second or third generation. So when you're going to be conversing about them, and you have to admit, crime is an issue in them. A lot of families have worked. They live in areas which are high in crime rates and stuff. As far as what you've stated, that is also an element which does have some weight in it. But as far as a normal person is going to see, that person is not going to see what their country did and what they saw on TV. The vast number of public will just support what they see on their roads, and on their roads they see all this. When, for example, inflation is high, jobs are scarce, and they see two kinds of immigrants, ones who are making a lot of money, and these are jobs which these people and businesses which the local people are not either qualified or are not able to get. That creates a bit of jealousy. And then if you see in contrast, for example, 70% of prisoners, or 70% of Moroccan community, for example, in Netherlands, has got a criminal history. That is a huge number. Now, people do point out the reasons for these people to get into those activities is lack of education, the areas and deprivation which has been generation upon generation for the last 2 or 3 generations from the first person who came to the country. So that's the background in those regards, and that's how it is. And Dolenji, you wanted to say something. Thank you very much.
So, I looked at the statistics of, I think, again, I think it was MNST or some UN organization. If you look at the refugee data, the age and the gender profile in Europe, right? So you have got, I think, depending upon the country, anywhere between 65% to 90% people coming in within the age group of men 18 to 45 years of age. So when you talk about refugees who have been bombed, they would typically move with their family, right? They would not leave their women, old, and kids behind at the bombed house and move to Europe, right? So, so to say that, since the Western people bombed their houses, so people, Europe has to accept refugees. Yes, makes sense, but they should ideally accept families as refugees, right? Not just, male members aged between 8 to 40, 18 to 45, which forms, anywhere between 65 to 90% of the refugee numbers. So, that's an interesting statistics I wanted to put forward.
I would like to respond to that. You're absolutely right, but the fact of the matter is, majority of these people, when they came, they were under the age of 18. If you're going to specifically talk about the refugees, so they come under children, and one of the and this whole thing that they would come with that. Most of these people, I'm not saying all of them, but Afghans and Iraqi boys, or even girls, less the number of girls, but more boys. What you see is they were sent as saviors of their family. Some of them have lost entire families. So after 3 or 4 years, these people grow up. They cross the age of maturity. So you are going to see that as a
So,
forefront. There are various reasons to that, and there have been like very extensive case studies carried out in regards to what you've just stated, where intricates can be anything from moving a young kid out and saving his life, and the rest of the family, the parents being too old, or them trying to save their women in the background. There have been families who've been killed completely, and these people have been orphans. And now, after 8, 9, 10 years, they're not going to remain under the age of 18. Most of these people, if you look at them as when they entered as refugees, they were held by foster parents who they needed legal guardianship because they were underage. And there's a very high proportion of these boys who have turned
uh,
into men.
In
so
that
the
case, I think
statistics that I
I'm
gave in Shajay was age at the time of immigration, not subsequently. So of course there would be some boys who would have also come in. There would be some women also who would have come in, who and some older people which have also come in. But what I'm telling you, depending upon country to country, the people aged between 18 to 45 form 65 to 90% of the groups which have migrated to these countries.
Again, I would say that's debatable, but in Netherlands' case, the percentage of refugees is not very high. Majority of their Muslim diaspora makes up of Moroccans, Turks, and Pakistanis.
Shaji, in that scenario, I would like to ask you, the
High majority of their
uh, what do you think is going to be the resultant now for the Muslim and non-Muslim public in Netherlands? What is the or the seeming victory of Great Wilders going to bring out an effect within the Netherlands between Muslims and the rest of the Dutch public? And how do you think that the Muslims in Netherlands uh, should mend or upgrade it or better it?
I think Muslims in Netherlands are not the only ones who have to worry. The person, Geert Wilders, who's been elected, is basically the catalyst of far right movements getting a spark throughout continent of Europe as well as United States. If somebody hasn't heard his 12th, it's the 11th hour speech, which was conducted in the United States and later on in other parts. What you'll notice is that this person has a a global Western kind of representation and connections. He is the one person who was able to collect majority of the far right wing people across the pond as well as continent of Europe together under one platform. So I think what should be worrisome right now for Muslims, uh, if we include Russia into the fold of entire Europe and Eastern Europe, you have almost like 400 million Muslims residing in this continent, the continent of what is known as Europe. Uh, if this kind the kind of acknowledgement he's getting from Hungary, Poland, the kind of people who are supporting him in Denmark, Sweden, Norway, what you're basically witnessing is something which might catch fire, and this can be a cross continental thing coupled with Trump victory in the USA. It's a very grim sight, and Muslims need to be very vigilant in regards to what is about to occur. But I would also like to point out something like this did occur in just before the Second World War, but the victims at that time happened to be the Jews of Europe, uh, but they were less in numbers. So this with over 300 million populace and growing, and if you include Turkey, which is just around the corner from this entirety, this can become a huge disaster zone, like we witnessed previously. So again, time will tell. This is why a lot of analysts, after this particular victory, this is a historic victory. This is a victory which is going to be a turning point in terms of which direction Europe and indirectly the United States moves moving forward. And like Andolan pointed out before, that a lot of liberal parties have had to move towards the right as well. And they've been talking about Muslims as a whole as well in various ways. I would like to further add to that that the entire shift of the left, because the right is becoming so popular, has basically been to turn into more right orientation. France is a prime example where Macron's party is supposed to be a liberal party. But because Le Pen and the general populace are falling every day for the kind of rhetoric Le Pen, which happens to be a far right party, is basically propagating, Uh, Macron's Liberal Party has absolutely no choice but to move towards that to appease or appeal to the general populace. Same was the example in the UK with UKIP garnering power. That's what the Tories did. That's why Cameron gave the referendum in the first place. Thank you very much.
Shaji, we have discussed at length the social implications of Wilder's victory. Uh, what do you think are going to be the economic implications of Wilder's victory on Netherlands, especially in regards to their relationship with the EU?
I think I've spoken about that at length. One of the first things for most of these things to be executed, he will have to give the Dutch people a referendum to which will be equivalent to an exit, the Netherlands equivalent to Brexit. And if that executes, that's the first step, and it's up. And he said that time and again, the first thing he's going to do is announce and propagate a referendum for the Dutch people to make a choice if they want to remain in the EU or not. It's the result of that referendum which is going to be the deciding factor for now, as far as Netherlands is concerned.
I would assume, Shaji, that the result of Brexit is going to have a large impact in the referendum of Netherlands as well. Uh, what do you think was the resultant of Brexit in the British economic system? Was it good? Was it bad? And how do you think that the Dutch public would make a perception in regards to if that would be referendum uh, viewing Brexit?
Again, regardless of that, any country leaving the EU now is in a very different boat because UK is already left and the cost of living crisis has been announced. There is a war in Ukraine and Russia. So again, the deciding factors are going to be very different. They might see again. It's a grey area when it comes to the United Kingdom because the leavers who were pro leaving the EU, they will basically they have a tendency of blaming everything on COVID and showing that the cost of living crisis is not just in the UK, it's also across in the continent of Europe as a whole, and EU is not doing very well. In fact, in terms of the utility bills, when they were like 12 times higher in Germany, for instance, all of a sudden because of the war, they were still relatively lower in the United Kingdom at that time. And again, what Germany was conducting in form of subsidy in their own country, that kind of artificially made other organizations operating in the rest of EU to complain that Germany is giving their people or companies operating there a lower rate. So Germany had to increase the rate to go match the rest of Europe in certain ways. So the cracks are there already. Europe is not the same as it was, and nobody can say if United Kingdom made the right decision or the wrong decision going by the current scenario. Thank you very much.
Yes, I think we should move forward to what basically you think would be the outcome of this election in terms of getting to power. Do you think uh, Wilders would be able to form a coalition with the other parties? Because looking at the recent headlines, it seems it's not going to be an easy task for him and his party to form a coalition. Uh, do you think, Andolan, uh, that he would be able to come to power?
It will be difficult, but I don't think the opposition has much choices. So there are a lot of so this is a new kind of phenomena for Europe. So you have to understand. specifically in country like Netherlands, they have never experienced, so as to say, the right wing politics, and that too the kind, what Gilder offers. So, you have a lot of opposition internally within Netherlands, which is, starting from political parties all the way up to the bureaucracy, right? So, bureaucracy also tuned in a particular way, right? So it's not gonna be an easy walk for him. But the so it's my point is not limited just to Netherlands. The point which I'm making is there is a reason why right wing consensus is gaining momentum, and this trend is on a incline. So we gonna see more of it coming in from Germany, from France, from Poland is I think largely right wing at even at this point of time, a lot of other European countries as well. So that this trend will continue. So he may not be able to execute his full will currently, because he'll be dependent on let's say certain liberal sections of the policy politics. But as you move forward, you might see a greater resurgence. That next time he comes in, he might not need anybody.
Thank you. Shaji, would you like to add something to this point? Okay. Ji
No, no.
Shaji. No, okay. Okay, I would move to another point then. What would be if he comes to power? It's still uh, like he has to, and his party has to form a coalition. But if the party comes in power and he is the prime minister elect, आपको क्या लगता है शाजी? I would ask this question to you first. जो Muslim countries हैं, how would they perceive him coming to power, और उनकी reception क्या होगी इसके
He,
ऊपर?
he, no, the guy planned to ban all the mosques and entirely ban Islam. How is that possible? Is that possible? I mean, I don't think that's possible in Europe, especially. Can't they just like,
Given
ban all the mosques and ban the ideology? How are they going to do? That's not possible. I don't think so.
So I'll tell you how it will work out, Medusa. When you say ban on the mosque, I don't think. But I think I've heard his views on the same. I don't think he's gonna ban religious freedom. You people will still be allowed to follow their religious beliefs and praying methods. But I think the discourses in mosque would be checked. The education, which is political or social in nature, irrespective of which religion it belongs to, specifically Islam, I think would face would not be allowed within Netherlands. So those would be the kind of restrictions that will come in. I don't think
I
he
don't.
will.
No, no, no. Andolanji. I don't think that's right. Actually, he have actually explicitly said that he's going to ban mosques. He's going to make
and it's
sure no
and
Muslims
it's
don't exist
clearly
there.
written in the party's manifesto, the Freedom Party's manifesto as well.
So that's a bit of a tricky one, in my opinion, because he stated building of new mosques in that. So if you look at it very, very clearly, so he's not talking about the current mosques. When he was asked what about the Muslims who are already residing in the Netherlands, he very cleverly stated the people who agree to our society and whatnot. What we're going to do is we're not going to those who have already arrived and who live and happen to be Muslims, they can remain Muslims, and they will be able to remain as part of the Dutch society and part and parcel of whatever is going on. But for him to execute even what he stated, he will need to conduct a referendum. Otherwise, he won't be able to complete what he stated. It will be to the extent of Poland, where people might scream a bit, where the Polish refused to get immigrants of Muslim descent in the past, but Netherlands did not. But these are some of the examples which he might carry out against the EU. He'll make life tough for the EU on a
So
daily basis.
So what you're trying to tell me is that France is doing what it's doing to Muslims, and Netherlands is going to start doing what it's doing to Muslims. So next would be Germany, right? For Kanbai, Germany will begin because every time
Germany would be the
Europe
last,
needs
but you said.
Europe, every time Europe needs a new, victim, there will always be. I mean, if it's the Nazis, and it's always history repeating itself with a new victim in Europe, of course. Is that where we're going?
It seems to be in that light, and I think it's not France who Le Pen who became popular first. It was Geert Wilders who was, again, if you look at part and parcel of the situation, that Geert Wilders' speeches and his connections made Le Pen popular in France. So what you're witnessing is many people would go as far as stating that it was Geert Wilders' influence to begin with, for after post Fitna, the movie, and introduction and providing a platform to people like Ayan Adi Hirsi, who basically brought Trump into power. Many people would go as far as saying that Trump would have not resonated with the evangelical Christians or anyone else. If you notice, one of the primary examples of what Geert Wilders does not fail to mention in many of his speeches is that Europe and the West are based on Judeo Christian morality, Judeo Christian theology. That is what our society is based upon. He has not been shy of making that statement. He's
But
extremely
isn't
pro
like
Israel.
Judo-Christian morality this almost the same as Muslim morality? Almost.
Yeah, but they see that as an outside thing with the whole thing. If you notice, one of the things which he's advocated just in the last 2 3 months is Palestine issue, even before it became an issue. So his campaign since last 3 months has been very pro-Israel. Even the Israeli and Palestinian conflict had not begun to the extent which we've seen. Hamas had not yet gone and fired rockets. So what you're witnessing is somebody who claims to be in favor of Semitic people. By the way, he's banned from Indonesia and the countries of Malaysia since more than a decade now for being hateful in various ways. So his entire career is based upon that. He's basically the hub who's become visible, and that is why this is very dangerous. This person
So it's
is
like
the
his.
modern
So is this
day
like his
individual.
politics, or he actually hates Muslims?
Oh, he does hate Muslims. He hates a lot of things in regards to that. And Germany के अंदर भी इसके power के अंदर he's advocated Germany के अंदर far right parties बिल्कुल ban थी. It's geared builders who made a playground for them, and today they are gaining a huge amount of popularity in Germany. So when you're there's another factor to cross Europe again. He has been a
So the
proponent of that.
so the Germany thing has already begun.
Yeah, that's already begun since a few years. On top of that, it's very interesting. This guy in the 90s, when he was a youngster, promoted the fact कि यूरोपियंस को पैसे देने चाहिए उन मुस्लिम नेशनलिस्ट को और उन एथनिक माइनॉरिटीज को जो यहाँ पे नेशनल हो चुके हैं फर्स्ट सेकंड थर्ड जनरेशन और वो पैसे दे के इनको हम पैसे दें और ये अपना पासपोर्ट वापस करें और वापस चले जाएं. Denmark has executed that policy for more than 10 years now. I think Netherlands is also offering that. So you can go to these countries, and this is going to be that is part of Le Pen's मैनिफेस्टो एज वेल. जर्मनी के अंदर भी इन चीज़ों की बात हो रही है. तो वो कह रहे हैं खुशी खुशी से जो इमिग्रेंट्स हैं फ्रॉम सर्टन कंट्रीज और फ्रॉम सर्टन रिलीजन्स वो आए अथॉरिटीज को अपना पासपोर्ट दें हम इतने पैसे देते हैं वापस जाओ.
कितने पैसे देते हैं?
Different countries got different. I think it's about 30 to 40 thousand euros as far as Denmark is concerned, the Danish krona, because they don't.
Shaji, we have discussed the problem.
So they offer money to people who want to return Danish passport. For example, an Afghan, right? An Afghan gives them back their Danish passport so that he can go back to his country, which is bombed by the West and given in plate to the Taliban. That's what they're saying. We will mess you up and then we'll tell you to go back.
Shaji, we have discussed at length what the problems are occurring. We have not yet discussed anything that we can suggest uh, as a part of a solution for the liberal parties or the centrist parties or the centrist public. Uh, what do you suggest would be a direction towards the solution to the problem that
If
we have discussed?
if I may add just one comment to that question, get popular, get votes. That's the solution, I would say. Jishaji.
In that case, I would have said get populous and get votes. That's a better way.
I think I'm going to give a
Yeah.
very unpopular opinion. I think a majority of the Muslim community have a very specific problem. I think in 14th century, um, initially when the printing press came, most of the higher up religious people they wanted it banned in Muslim countries because they thought that if the printing press came and everybody started reading everything and science came along, it might jeopardize their position, right? So and then the printing press came to the Muslim world around 17th century, so that is like 300 years difference. 16th century, I'm not sure, but it was like 200 or 300 years difference. And that's how far we are behind. But the thing is that I think the problem with I would say it out here, the problem with most Muslims today is the same thing. They're living in the same 1400 years. They think if our kids will go and get the same education as the Western people, start um, mixing with them, they will lose their religion, or they will lose their faith, or I don't know, that's what they've been told. So that's what they tell their kids, right? So I think this thing has a lot of role to play in the whole situation here, because we go out of country, we make our own community, we talk to our own people. वो कहते हैं मुल्ला की दौड़ मस्जिद तक, most of them, I mean, even in the West, it's a sad phenomena that even in the West most of them choose to be uneducated, and that is sad. You have all the opportunities in the world and you chose to stay uneducated. So technically it is some, I mean, we have to meet halfway. It is somehow our fault as well. I mean, if all these people, if they would have focused on education, educating their kids, right, more focused on what they're going to do in their life, instead of those typical don't lose your culture, don't lose your culture, that's not a good thing. But keeping your child or your relative from making something out of himself, that is sad, but which is weird, because they say that in Pakistan everybody's trying to educate their kids, and in the West it's the other way around, right? Which is weird, because in most the same British education system is over here, right? We have A levels, we have O levels, the history, the most of the books we read are a standard of class is speaking in English language, right? Everybody, but nobody has a problem with that. But if they go to their country, they're going to pretend like, oh, we're a minority, we're going to keep a certain distance from the majority. I think all these things plays into all this situation. They had all the
Can
opportunities
I,
and they just left it halfway.
yeah, can I sum it up in a very crisp way? But
Gigi.
please do not get triggered. Yeah.
Or
So
Sandojan ji.
everybody who, so if so for everybody who concur with the slogan from river to the sea, Palestine will be free, 10 years down the line should not be surprised if he hears from English Channel to Black Sea, Europe would be free.
You're
Uh,
comparing something very different to
uh,
something
No, no,
which
that's
is
something
in
very
terms of.
interesting, which Andolan has basically said, because one of the Geert builders' primary slogan for the last 3 years or so has been from the river to the sea, we're going to make Israel Palestine free, Palestinian free. So it's opposite as well. And ironically, you brought it up. That is one of the things with which Geert builders has been very vocal about, Andolan.
About the Shah, if I may, about the
So,
freedom of the
the
Palestinians.
reason I say so, just let me put in, the reason I say so. So, primary issue is not education, not religious beliefs. Primary issue is the issue of coexistence. And, you may debate with me, till the cows come home. But if you want to, coexist, you have to allow coexistence. So, that display has to come in. Otherwise, if you exclude, people will start excluding.
Okay, I have a question, and I think Andolanji, you were about to answer what Medusa earlier said. कि mosque Quran ये कैसे बैन करेगा वो नेदरलैंड में? I think you had some solutions for the new man coming in पीएम ऑफिस नेदरलैंड के. अपनी कोई प्लेबुक से बताएं क्या किस तरह इम्प्लीमेंट कर सकते हैं वो. आपने भी लिखा होगा इंडिया में कुछ करने के लिए, तो वो शायद उन्हें यूज कर लें. तो आप बताएं वो क्या यूज करेंगे अपनी प्लेबुक से, कोई ट्रिक्स, कोई नुस्खे, कोई तरीके, कुछ बताइए अंदुलन जी. आप बताने लगे थे, कट हो गए थे.
हाँ, नहीं नहीं, मैंने आपको क्या बताया. देखिए, हिंदुस्तान में व्हेन इट कम्स टू इंडिया, आई डोंट थिंक मॉस्क, चर्चेस, सिनेगॉग्स have ever been banned or would ever be banned, right? I mean, irrespective of how Hindutvadi parameter a guy is, he would never call for disallowing people to follow or practice their faiths. That's the inherent part of the Hindu culture. That will never go. Yes, we would not let political ideology run. We would not let the social ideology run. Right. So, if you look at the discussions which happen in the Indian space, they would probably say, uniform civil code. I mean, we don't marry to, we won't allow you to marry to. We give equal succession rights to, girl child. You would have to do the same. Right. And somewhere, these kind of issues when are taken at ego levels, and there's a lot of confrontation. तो ओवर रिएक्शन फिर आता है सामने वाली स्लाइड. यूरोप में भी आपको जो देखने को मिल रहा है वो यही देखने को मिल रहा है. मैंने इसीलिए वो समराइज करा.
नहीं,
इफ
आंदोलन
इफ
जी,
एनीबॉडी. हाँ.
आंदोलन जी एक बात बताएं, ठीक है, मैं आपको एक एग्जांपल देती हूँ. अगर आप ये जो कह रहे हैं कि हम जो करेंगे आप भी वो करोगे, ये तो बहुत अजीब बात है. अगर अगर इस्लाम में कोई चीज अलाउड है और फॉर एग्जांपल इस्लाम में अलाउड नहीं और हिंदुइज्म में अलाउड है, दैट इज मतलब यू डू योर थिंग एंड मुस्लिम वोंट डू इट बिकॉज यू आर नॉट द सेम. लेट्स जस्ट बी ऑनेस्ट, नो आइडियोलॉजी इज द सेम. आप और क्रिश्चियन एक नहीं हो, आप और जूज एक नहीं हो, मुसलमान और क्रिश्चियन एक नहीं है. देयर विल ऑलवेज बी things that are different, so you'll have to live up to their expectation कि
विच इज
अच्छा,
परफेक्टली
if
ऑलराइट. तो
something is
मनीषा.
not.
हाँ.
नहीं, तो आपने अभी कहा कि अगर हम एक शादी करेंगे तो हम मुसलमानों के को भी यही करवाएंगे, एक ही शादी करेंगे.
हाँ, नहीं,
व्हाई?
तो ये
इट्स
इसमें
इट्स
इसमें
इफ
हाँ,
इट्स
नहीं
अलाउड इन आवर
मैं इसका
फेथ, अभी
इसका
देयर शुडंट
नहीं
बी.
मैं इसका नहीं मैं इसका बता रहा हूं. देखिए, एक है आपकी रिलीजियस बिलीफ, वो आपकी पर्सनैलिटी. So, in the most westernized societies, what people do not infringe upon is the personal, choices, right? Whatever impacts the society, that society has a, onus to take a call upon.
And what do
Let's
you
say,
think are the
so
laws that impact
just
society?
मैं एक आपको
पूरा
एग्जांपल
करने
इसीलिए
दो
देने
पहले.
लगा. हाँ. So let's say tomorrow, we find that it is untenable to have a population replacement ratio of more than 1.7%, for example. Right? The India may not have that many resources, so we will implement across the board, right? And if some, let's say, a Muslim group comes and says that we cannot do, birth control because it is haram in our religion, what do we do?
Oh, that's it's not haram in our religion. Then no, nobody ever
But
said
it
that.
is
I'm
not.
just giving you an example, right? I'm just
But
giving
the
you an example.
example is false. Now
Yeah.
give a true
Nee,
example
nee, nee,
because
nee,
I
just
mean this is
just
your job.
Sid, for an example, I think let it go. And I think Andolan ji, there are certain policies जो आप बात कर रहे हैं ना, वो principally they are not derived from Hinduism. जो आप policies की जिनकी
हाँ,
बात
मैं
कर रहे
मैं
हैं,
मैं मैं उसकी बात भी नहीं कर
they,
रहा हूँ।
they they
देखिए,
they come from a very
हिंदुइज्म में भी
secular. एक second, Andolan ji, let me
नहीं,
complete.
सेकुलर नहीं, मैं आपको एक फंडामेंटल पर्सपेक्ट
They
बताता
come
हूँ।
from no, no,
ये
they
जो
come
ये
from
जो कॉन्सेप्ट ऑफ
secular perspective.
सेकुलरिज्म है,
They come,
हाँ,
they come from a very secular perspective. That's why they are implemented universally.
कैन आई नाउ मेक अ पॉइंट? ये कॉन्सेप्ट ऑफ सेकुलरिज्म कहाँ से आया आपका? किस रिलीजन में सेकुलरिज्म का कॉन्सेप्ट? किस अब्राहमिक फेथ में सेकुलरिज्म का कॉन्सेप्ट है?
It's another debate, Andolan ji.
तो
But मैं ये
I'm
कह
just
रहा हूँ
But,
कि
asking, तो आप पॉइंट समझने की कोशिश करिए, मैं क्या कह रहा हूँ। ये जो सेकुलरिज्म का कॉन्सेप्ट है वो किस अब्राहमिक फेथ में है? किसी में नहीं,
so you're
केवल
saying
हिंदुइज्म।
West के अंदर जो सेकुलरिज्म है वो कहाँ से आया है? आप मुझे इसका जवाब दें.
ये हिंदुइज्म से आया।
but
सी
secular
पीपल में
literally
एक्सेप्ट
नहीं,
mean
it's
या
no, no, no. एक second. Secular
on
literally
what you are
means
saying,
with something that is
Andolan.
not with related to religion. So how can Hinduism
so
be
no.
secular?
So the secularism we talk about is different from how it is defined. Secularism is defined as separation of church and state. That's the classical Western definition of secularism. The way we
That is
understand secularism is slightly different in subcontinent. The way we understand secularism is to have respect for all, people, equal treatment to all, so on and so forth, right? I as an individual am entitled to discriminate, right? State is not. No, so I'm not expected to be secular. But the way we understand secularism, किसी भी अब्राहमिक फेथ में किसी भी दूसरी विचारधारा के लिए स्कोप ही नहीं होता है एकोमोडेट करने का। तो जिस
ये
सेकुलरिज्म की
तो
हम बात
आप
कर रहे हैं, अकोमोडेशन की बात कर रहे
ये
हैं,
तो
नहीं
आप
नहीं नहीं
गलत बात
आंदोलन जी
राइट?
कर
मुझे
हम
एक
रहे हैं
बात
ना.
एक
कंसिस्ट
सेकंड एक सेकंड एक सेकंड सेकंड आंदोलन जी मुझे एक बात समझाए, ठीक है? सेक्युलरिज्म इज अ कॉन्सेप्ट where a religious entity is separated from the state. Do we understand that, right? So how
That's
can
that's
a
that's how it was
faith
supposed to
like
be, but
Hinduism
it
be
is understood in
secular?
a different way. Sorry?
Okay, I guess nothing. Sid, continue. You wanted to say something.
वही पूछना चाह रहा था ना कि आप फिर ये किस तरह कह सकते हैं कि हिंदुइज्म सेक्युलरिज्म को प्रमोट करता है. दैट वुड बी अ ऑक्सीमोरॉन. आप ये कहना चाह रहे हैं कि आप एक हिंदू स्टेट भी हैं और आप सेक्युलर भी हैं, तो एक पिक करेंगे ना. हाँ, अगर आप ये
ठीक,
आर्ग्यूमेंट
मैं
देना
आपको
चाह
बताता
रहे
हूँ।
हैं,
हाँ,
एक मिनट ना, मेरा जरा क्वेश्चन पूरा फॉर्मुलेट होने दे. अगर आप ये आर्ग्यूमेंट देना चाह रहे हैं कि हिंदुइज्म जो है वो स्टेट बनाने के लिए कहता ही नहीं है, अ, फिर आप ये नहीं कह सकते कि हिंदुइज्म एक सेक्युलर रिलीजन है. आप ये कह सकते हैं हिंदुइज्म इज अ रिलीजन दैट इज disconcerning in regards to affairs of the state. Then there is no such thing as a Hindu state possible.
जी, अब मैं
I think
आपका
the word
जवाब
that will be
देता हूँ।
used for
हाँ,
Hinduism is
हाँ,
liberal, not secular.
no, होल्ड ऑन। तो मैं एक्सप्लेन करता हूँ, राइट? अब एक इंडियन जो वैल्यूज और इथॉस है comes with a civilizational maturity, right? It is one of the longest running civilization, right? तो आपका एक है गवर्नेंस सिस्टम, आपका एक है लॉ मेकिंग सिस्टम. हमारे यहाँ का लॉ मेकिंग सिस्टम आप देखिए, फ्रॉम टाइम इमेमोरियल इट्स नॉट अ सिंगल बुक, राइट? इन सतयुग इट यूज्ड टू बी मनुज लॉ. In Kali Yuga, it is क्या Parashar's law. In Dwapar, it was somebody else's law. In today's time, I'm in, so my laws are changing due to the need in time. So that is the method of governance. So I'm not stuck upon a book which tells me do this, don't do this. My belief
Andolan ji, that
system.
would make you liberal, not
Just just
secular.
just just
That
hear
would
me out.
make you
Just
liberal.
hear me out. Just hear me out. Just hear me out. Just hear me, right? So my belief system is one part of the equation, right? My Vedas tell me this mantras to recite. My Bhagavad Gita tells me this is the philosophy I need to follow, right? That's my individual way of worshipping my gods. It has nothing to do with the guy who's is staying in my neighborhood. But how I will govern myself is not dictated by a dated book. It keeps on updating. That's the
Well,
legal system which
देखो
impacts my social and political life.
आंदोलन जी, देखे मेरी ये
राइट?
बात
तो
सुने।
आप यहाँ पे फर्क समझ रहे हैं, हमारे यहाँ बड़ा
नहीं
क्लियर
नहीं नहीं, देखो आप
डिमार्केशन है
मैं आपकी
कि
बात,
ये
एक सेकंड
रिलीजन
से
है,
गिव मी अ मोमेंट।
ये रिलीजन है,
आंदोलन जी मैं,
ये गवर्नेंस सिस्टम है।
आंदोलन जी मेरी बात सुने,
तो
ठीक है?
गवर्नेंस सिस्टम
आप
चेंज होता रहेगा टाइम के हिसाब से, रिलीजियस बिलीफ्स
लेकिन वो है,
अपने हिसाब से
वो तो
चलती
आपको
रहेंगी।
आपके रिलीजन, देखिए वो आपको आपके रिलीजियस बिलीफ से ही आते हैं ना, सो दैट वुड मेक इट लिबरल, दैट वुड नॉट मेक इट सेक्युलर।
नो नो, तो नहीं, आप
Secularism and
फर्क नहीं समझे।
Hinduism are oxymorons because Hinduism
नो
is
नो
kind of
नो
a
नो नो,
religion or way of life.
नहीं,
It's a faith.
no. Hold on. So, again, the way I'm not talking about secular, the way it was supposed to be. I'm talking about secularism, the way it is understood in the subcontinent, right? So, when you ask me, in US, had it been an Abrahamic nation, would it had allowed people to worship multiple gods? The answer to that is no,
why?
Yes. No.
right?
Yes.
Just
You need to understand something,
right.
Andolan ji.
Just hear me out.
Pakistan, nee, sorry,
Just hear me out. Just
USA.
hear me out. Just hear me out. Medusa, just hear me out. Just hear me out. Right? So, it would, so ideally when I go as per Abrahamic, so if it was Judeo-Christian values, right? What is happening in US? The constitution allows you polytheism. People can choose which God to pray. That's only available in Hinduism, right? Is it available in Islam? Is it available in Christianity? It is available in Judaism? The answer to that is no. You're getting the
What are
dots
you
which I'm trying
talking
to connect.
about?
आंदोलन जी बात सुने।
No,
नहीं, आंदोलन जी बात
you are
सुने,
अच्छा,
blatantly
एक सेकंड,
I
लेट मी
think,
you are
स्पीक।
guys,
अगर हम मुस्लिम कंट्रीज में और इवन क्रिश्चियन कंट्रीज में और इवन जूइश कंट्रीज में नॉन 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 मतलब वो जो उनका रिलीजन फॉलो करे वो एग्जिस्ट करते हैं, ठीक है? इजराइल is kind of a Jewish state, even though if it be called secular, they still have Baha'i temples. They still, I think, they do have some Hindu temples as well. When it
They
comes to
do not allow Hindu
US
temples.
morality, oh well, that's different. Then,
Israel
because
doesn't have a Hindu temple, right?
yeah, but Pakistan
Half
have
of
Hindu
Middle East doesn't
temples.
have a Hindu temple. The Pakistan has a,
They do.
have a, has,
अभी
okay, try
सऊदी
to
अरेबिया
understand.
ने रिसेंटली
So,
सबसे बड़ा,
so
सऊदी
Pakistan,
अरेबिया और अबू
no,
धाबी
no,
ने रिसेंटली
no,
सबसे
एक
बड़ा
second.
टेंपल
Just hear me out.
बनाया है।
Medusa, just hear me out. Pakistan traditionally used to be a Hindu, place, right? Historically. What I'm telling you, that any of these Abrahamic ecosystem where it is governed by Abrahamic laws, whether it is Saudi Arabia, right? कतर में मंदिर बना दिया लेकिन मूर्ति नहीं रखने देंगे,
अरे भाई नहीं नहीं,
right?
अब एक मिनट आंदोलन जी,
Just
यहाँ
just
यूएस
एक सेकंड,
I have to
मेरा
I
पॉइंट,
have to
मेरा
cut
पूरा
in
बात तो
here.
सुन लो भाई, मेरा एक बात तो सुन लो। तो मैं जो पॉइंट ये कह रहा हूँ कि व्हेन इट कम्स टू रिलीजियस बिलीफ व्हिच इज इंटायरली पर्सनल, आप मुसलमान हो, आप मेरे मंदिर के अंदर ना आके देखो उसमें मूर्ति लगी है कि नहीं लगी है, पर अगर
आंदोलन
मैं
जी
4 लाख आदमी
अच्छा,
कतर में रह रहा है, मैं अगर
आप
8 लाख आदमी
let,
क्या कहते हैं ओमान में रह रहा है, तो उधर मेरे को मंदिर चाहिए।
अच्छा आंदोलन जी, मुझे आप
अच्छा,
अगर
एक
आप
चीज
सेठ एक
उसको नहीं
बताइए
सेकंड,
अलाउ
कि
कर
आप
रही हो,
सेठ एक
देखो
और
सेकंड, सेठ एक
तो फिर
सेकंड।
आप उस चीज से एक्सेप्शन नहीं ले सकते हो कि नीदरलैंड्स वाला आपका मॉस्क नहीं बनाने देगा।
ओके, थैंक यू आंदोलन जी। आई थिंक हर किसी को काफी टाइम मिल गया। आई गो स्ट्रेट टू शाजी। शाजी, यू हैड समथिंग टू से, प्लीज गो अहेड।
Yeah, so I just wanted to point out कि अपना अपना मतलब in terms का नहीं निकाला जा सकता, इनकी अपनी हिस्ट्री होती है। Secularism was a term basically which was coined by Holyoake, और Holyoake ने एक लेटर लिखा था in the 19th century। उससे पहले भी लोग इसके बारे में बात करते थे, but the term was not existent। और उसने एक सिंपल सी बात कही थी, for in order for us to progress, जो differences of opinion हैं, they should not be They should not have those obstacles of various religious groups and body, and that is all what secularism is. Thank you very much. I wanted to point that out. On top of that, जहाँ पे अगर कोई कहेगा कि उसकी रिलीजन सेक्युलरिज्म के साथ एग्री करती है, तो आप ये नहीं क्लेम कर सकते कि सेक्युलरिज्म के साथ या सेक्युलरिटी के साथ एग्री करती है. आप ये ज़रूर कह सकते हैं कि for instance, and different religions will state that in a different way, um, that आप की रिलीजन अगर आपके रिलीजियस ऑर्डर आता है, तो it will not become an obstacle for anyone who else is practicing within that place. That's as far as you can say. That's as far as you can go. You can't claim secularism. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Shaji. I think that makes sense. Andolanji, if you would like to respond to that point.
So, my the way that I look at it, if you have to be successful as as a society, as a country, you know, you have to allow people. The same thing, same way you're thinking about Netherlands today. One guy is making a claim that I would not allow any new mosques to come in. I would not allow Islam to be propagated in Netherlands, right? The same restrictions have been put by Islamists across the globe to multiple other religions. If that has been acceptable, then you have, I mean, then it would be only be hypocrisy that you object to somebody else.
Nobody said that's
So,
acceptable.
there's two way to look at it. There is two way to look at it. One is call out Netherlands, which is perfectly all right. But at the same time, call out Saudi Arabia as well. Why Saudi Arabia not allowing a Hindu temple or a Buddhist monastery to be built in Saudi Arabia?
It's not about allowing a religious temple or a mosque. The question over here is very, very different. You're not going to look at something like this
So,
globally. We're
so, so
talking
that is
about.
why I said, if you
Can I
have to become
complete?
a
I haven't
successful
made my
society,
point yet,
if
Andolanji.
so,
Andolanji,
हाँ,
I
so
haven't
मैं
made
बस
my
अपना
point
point
yet.
खत्म कर
With
रहा
all
था.
due respect,
Andolanji, let Shaji
can
complete.
somebody like control the panel, please? What are you guys doing? Everyone's interjecting. Calm down, guys. It's only five of us. Okay, anyhow, thank you. Now I've forgotten what I was about to say, so thanks a lot.
Okay, Andolanji,
So,
you were saying.
हाँ, हाँ, so मैं ये कह रहा था, देखिए अब ये choice आपकी है. देखिए, there are two ways you can call out Netherlands. We will keep calling out Saudi Arabia. There would be some other people who would call in the Hindutva goons, so on and so forth. That's one way of looking at. The other way is to work upon a successful model. Build all the societies across the globe, which are democracies where people have freedom to, pursue, as long as they don't interfere in the society, pursue their religious beliefs in the best possible manner they want to. Societies like America, right? Canada, so on and so forth, right? So, if those are the values that you aspire to, those are the values you expect from Netherlands, you have to, incorporate these values into your systems as well. You cannot be an exclusive system and ask the counterparty, that guy, you claim to be inclusive, why are you suddenly turning exclusive?
Okay, Andaranji, I have to say this now.
Hold
Are
on,
you
can you
an
hold your
Yeah,
horses
yeah,
for a
please.
second, please? Thank you.
Ji, Shaji, please go
So,
ahead. And please, no one interjects.
yeah, please do not interject. First of all, immigration. Saudi Arabia, last time I checked, allows immigration from around the world. It accepts immigrants from everywhere around the world. As far as Iran is concerned, Iran has never said it's not going to accept immigrants. So these are the two polar parts. Then you've got Turkey. Turkey accepts immigrants. Whether people want to go there or not is another point. On top of that, yes, there are examples, like you said, about religious temples, but the most imperative point of all is Netherlands happen to be a country which gives citizenship. It's practiced something of uh, integration policy after the Second World War. They're the ones who asked the economic migrants to come into their country to do jobs and sustain the economy, as it was not sustainable without those immigrants. These immigrants, in their majority, do make a lot of what these countries stand for and how they've been like progressing. Now we're talking about why would Saudi Arabia be a concern in this? we're talking about European nationals, we're speaking about Muslim origin Dutch people, we're talking about British Muslims. We are conversing about the French Muslims. We're conversing about the Danish, Norwegian, Swedish Muslims. Why would their countries determine outcome come into existence, or they should be considering कि सऊदी अरेबिया क्या कर रहा है, या इराक में क्या हो रहा है, या बाकी जगहों के ऊपर क्या हो रहा है. These are people who are nationals of their respective countries, who happen to have an integrated and equal rights given to them. When those equal rights are omitted, just like anti-Semitism, this what happened with the Jewish citizens after the Second World War is what is we are on the doorstep of in if this executes with the Muslims. सो इसके अंदर ये बात बिल्कुल इररेलेवेंट है कि सऊदी अरेबिया क्या कर रहा है. वे टॉकिंग
मैं
अबाउट
बताता हूँ कैसे रेलेवेंट है शाहजी जी. ये रेलेवेंट ऐसे है कि एक पाकिस्तानी सिटीजन जब 30 साल सऊदी अरेबिया में लगाता है तो उसको वापस आना पड़ता है. जब वो यूरोप में ब्रिटेन में लगाता है तो वो अपने आप को ब्रिटिश मुस्लिम बोल सकता है, राइट. लेकिन मैं 50 साल सऊदी अरेबिया की सेवा करूं, मैं कभी भी अपने आप को सऊदी अरेबियन हिंदू नहीं बोल
दैट्स अ
पाऊंगा
सऊदी
क्योंकि वो
मैटर.
सिटीजनशिप नहीं देते. यू नो केवल सऊदी की नहीं. एक
देखें
सेकंड,
भाईजान, ये
एक
बहुत
सेकंड, अलाउ माय पॉइंट. यू नो, allow my point,
जी
allow my
आप
point,
करें.
and then you can counter, right.
जी
Same
आप
thing is
कंप्लीट.
same. It is completely accurate, right. What I'm saying is, if a Pakistani is perfectly all right to go into Saudi and come back home after 20 years of working there, he should be okay to go to Netherlands if required to work and come back after 10 years.
Yeah,
Then
but
he should not be
that should
expecting
be
just hold on, just allow me to
okay.
complete
I
my
thought
point.
you finished.
You know, you know what, I'm not saying that you are not making a valid point. What I'm saying is you're not making a consistent point.
I think I'm making a very consistent point, and I'll tell you why. Because last time I checked, the immigration laws in Netherlands or United Kingdom or America for that matter basically did not depend upon what Saudi Arabia does or does not do. Independent sovereign countries. The laws of immigration and whatever India has carried out are not dependent upon what Saudi Arabia does or anyone else does. अब कई आपके इंडिया के अंदर लॉज हैं जो बिल्कुल भी इमिग्रेशन और दूसरी चीज़ों के हिसाब से एक्सेप्टेबल यूरोप के अंदर होंगे ही नहीं. ठीक है, जिस तरह फॉर एग्जांपल हाउ मेनी टाइम्स डू पीपल गेट इंडियन नेशनैलिटी इफ दे कम फ्रॉम अदर कंट्रीज. इफ I don't know how many would want or desire that,
Oh,
but it's very
we have
hard
the
to
world's
acquire it.
largest, immigration population in the world. You know,
No, no, I'm talking
so but
about
so
economic migrancy. अभी
yeah,
तो
I'm
इंडिया
talking about economic people who have also
क्या
got
आंदोलन की
citizenship
बात
in
खत्म
India,
कर
right?
लें. Did I interject?
Andolanji, just please wait.
यार आप कोई भी इंटरजेक्ट करे तो आप थोड़ा कंट्रोल रखें प्लीज. इस तरह बात सही नहीं है. तो इस तरह कॉन्वर्सेशन खराब होती है. दिस इज द सेकंड टाइम आई लॉस्ट द थॉट ऑफ माय ट्रेन एंड आई डोंट नो लाइक दिस इज नॉट राइट.
Okay, guys, we are only five people here. Uh, turn wise, continue kare. Shaji, if you want to continue, you can. Otherwise, I'll ask Andolan to get back to the discussion so that you can. Uh, yeah.
नहीं देखें, बात बड़ी सिंपल सी है कि you're not only talking about people who are migrants. There are such a thing as like Netherlands born Muslims. There are white normal people who have reverted as well. उनका आप क्या करेंगे? उनको कहेंगे कि आप यहाँ से चले जाओ. You're basically a Muslim who is white Caucasian, who is part and parcel of the Netherlands society. ठीक है, दिस इज नॉट द सेम थिंग एज व्हाट यू बेसिकली स्टेटिंग. ये तो अपने प्रिज्म से देखने वाली बात हुई कि हर बंदा उठ के चला गया जी वहां पे और उसको नेशनैलिटी मिल गई ना नहीं मिली. There are people, there is the fifth generation now who exists in Netherlands. पांचवी जनरेशन इमिग्रेंट्स की वहां पे बड़ी हो रही है, टर्क, मोरक्कन, पाकिस्तानी, इंडियन डायस्पोरा से. Those people have never stepped foot in any other country. 5 generations is a long time, and these people have been given nationalities. They are Netherlands citizens. अगर आप उनके बारे में ये बात करते हैं, that's no different from the Jews who had come from Israel, जो वहां पे सेटल थे, जो उनके साथ किया. It's a very different story. जी सऊदी अरेबिया में क्या हो रहा है तो हम क्या करेंगे, इंडिया में क्या हो रहा है तो हम क्या करेंगे. That's not what these things are dependent upon if they are sovereign countries. इस चीज को अंडरस्टैंड करें. It's not a global issue. This is a local European issue.
I also want to point
Gee,
out.
if you want to believe
Sid,
so, but this is precisely the point I made, that if you believe in from river to the sea, Palestine would be free. There would be a time that people will say from English Channel to Black Sea, Europe would be free. So
Andolan ji,
either you have to reject both or accept both. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying which is right, which is wrong. I'm saying be consistent.
आंदोलन
Andolan
जी,
ji, जी जी सर.
कौन सी चीज आप कह
नहीं,
रहे
एक
हैं?
सेकेंड. यूरोप विल बी फ्री ऑफ व्हाट? मुस्लिम्स?
यही
Yeah,
कह
yeah,
रहे
that
हैं
would
वो.
be the demand, right?
यूरोप विल बी
That's
फ्री
what
आप
ऑफ
Netherlands have voted for, right?
दोनों चीजें. अच्छा, पहली तो बात है आंदोलन जी, कंसिस्टेंटली आप जो चीज कह रहे हैं, आप अब्राहमिक रिलीजन, इस्लाम ने ये क्या है, उसके बाद आप आ जाते हैं सऊदी अरब पे. मेरे ख्याल से हिंदुइज्म सेक्युलर है कि नहीं है? आप फिर इसका मतलब है बिल्कुल भी सेक्युलर नहीं है, क्योंकि आपको स्टेट और रिलीजन की सेपरेशन समझ नहीं आ रही है. आपने अगर इस्लाम को क्रिटिक करना है, देन यू क्रिटिक द इस्लामिक लॉज. आपने जितनी भी बातें बोली हैं इन रिगार्ड्स टू कि को एग्जिस्ट नहीं कर सकते हैं मुसलमान बिकॉज ऑफ इस्लामिक लॉ, नॉट अ सिंगल वन ऑफ देम इज ट्रू. एक भी नहीं. दूसरी बात जो आप कह रहे हैं फ्रॉम द रिवर टू द सी वाली बात, फ्रॉम द रिवर टू द सी फ्री ऑफ व्हाट? जब हम पैलेस्टाइन की बात करते हैं तो पैलेस्टाइन वुड फ्री. डू यू थिंक दैट दीज पीपल आर telling the Jews to be thrown away? The Jews that they were living with them prior to 1947? Actually, जो सी चीज वो कह रहे हैं वो तो ये कह रहे हैं कि जो जायनिस्ट रिजीम उनके ऊपर आई है उससे उनको आज़ादी चाहिए. जो जालिमाना हुकूमत आई हुई है, जो उनको एक कंसंट्रेशन कैंप में रख रही है, उससे आज़ादी लेनी है. आप कह रहे हैं फ्रॉम द चैनल टू द ब्लैक सी यूरोप वुड बी फ्री ऑफ व्हाट? यूरोपियन मुस्लिम्स? ऑन व्हाट बिहाफ? That
Sid,
they
I
are.
would like to add something. Either
दैट इज
like
फिजिकली नॉट
last
पॉसिबल.
time last time जब इनकी इंडिया से एक
मैं
शख्स
देखिए
किसी
आप
दोनों जी एक पॉइंट रख लेते, एक पॉइंट रख लेते. कुछ साल पहले, कुछ डिकेड्स पहले इंडिया से एक आपके बहुत बड़े शख्स आए थे यूरोप में, एक शख्स से मिलने के लिए, जो रिवर टू द सी का नारा लगा के एक पॉपुलेशन को निकाल रहा था. अभी तक उसमें थू थू होती है. ठीक है, तो कहने का मकसद ये है कि, और उसी से इंप्रेस होके बहुत सी चीजें बनी. तो एक पूरी पॉपुलेशन को इस तरह निकालना, आपका क्या ख्याल है दुनिया उधर खड़ी होके क्या करेगी? तालियां बजाएगी?
जी जी मैं
दुनिया
देखिए
क्या
मैं
करेगी?
मैंने
फिजिकली
क्या कहा
एक
पॉसिबल.
सेकंड,
हिटलर
एक
couldn't
मैं
get
मुझे
rid of
मुझे
all
एक
the
सेकंड,
Jews.
आंदोलन जी एक सेकंड. जो इन्होंने एक पहली पॉपुलेशन के साथ एक अब्राहमिक फेथ के साथ किया 7 decades बैक, वो अगर रिपीट होगा, आपका क्या ख्याल है दुनिया खड़ी होकर क्लैपिंग करेगी कि शाबाश, लगे रहो? है, they still reap the repercussions of their actions. They are very cautious. They are very cautious. It's not like
जी
you can compare the policies जो कि draconian है in the UAE, हम भी accept करते हैं. We don't have much difference on immigration policies, integration policies, जो आपकी UAE या गल्फ स्टेट्स में हैं. ठीक है, मेरा आपका ओपिनियन शायद ज्यादा डिफरेंट ना हो, बट वी कांट, जिस रशा ने पॉइंट रेज किया था, वी कांट बेसिकली कंपेयर यूएई की पॉलिसीज या मुस्लिम वर्ल्ड की पॉलिसीज टू द इमिग्रेशन लॉज इन द वेस्ट.
जी अब मैं इसका रिस्पॉन्ड कर दूं. आप देखिए
जी
मैंने ये नहीं कहा कि फ्रॉम इंग्लिश चैनल टू ब्लैक सी ये मेरा व्यू पॉइंट है. मैं केवल ये कह रहा हूं जिस भी मायने से आप रिवर टू द सी पैलेस्टाइन वुड बी फ्री, जिस मायने से आप समझते हो, उसी मायने से इंग्लिश चैनल टू द बैक सी वुड बी फ्री आपके ऊपर इंप्लीमेंट होता है, तो सरप्राइज ना होइएगा। यू हैव टू बी कंसिस्टेंट।
Well, but the thing is कि नहीं
Just
नहीं,
hear
the
me
thing
out.
is कि
Just
इनमें
hear me
से
out.
किसी
Just hear
यूरोपियन
me out.
कंट्री में भी
Medusa, allow me to,
किसी किसी
allow me
मुसलमान
to, allow me to.
जायनस की कोई
नहीं
हुकूमत
नहीं,
नहीं
allow
की
me
है ना,
to.
there is a
Medusa,
difference.
Medusa, allow me to, right? तो जो भी आप टाइम फ्रेम ले रहे हो कि हम केवल 1947 से पहले के जूस को यहां रहने देंगे, यूरोप भी ऐसे ही कुछ सोचेगा,
नहीं
राइट?
नहीं नहीं, that's
मैं
not
ये कह
true,
रहा
that's
हूं,
not true.
मैं आई एम जस्ट कॉलिंग, जो हियर मी आउट, यू आर नॉट अंडरस्टैंडिंग द पॉइंट। मैं ये कॉल नहीं, मेरा यूरोप पे कोई लेना ही देना नहीं, ना मैं यूरोपियन हूं, ना मेरा वहां पे कोई मकान है, ना मेरी कोई दुकान है। मैं आपके स्टैंड की बात कर रहा हूं कि आप ये, जब आप दो तरीके के पर्सपेक्टिव लेके चलोगे कि एक तरफ तो आपको क्या कहते हैं, इजराइल और पैलेस्टाइन में रिवर टू द सी चाहिए, और साथ ही साथ आपको ही यूरोप में उसके बिल्कुल ऑपोजिट पॉलिसी चाहिए, वो नहीं चलेगा। पॉलिसी
आंदोलन
कंसिस्टेंट
जी,
आपको रखनी पड़ेगी।
नहीं
तो या तो
आंदोलन
आप
जी,
अपना
मैं
यहाँ पे
I
रिवर
मुझे
टू द सी से,
एक
आंदोलन जी,
सेकंड
या
एक
तो
सेकंड
रिवर
आंदोलन,
टू
आंदोलन,
द सी से
आंदोलन
एक
जी, I
विड्रॉल
पॉइंट,
want to
करो,
say something,
हाँ,
पॉइंट,
एक
एक
या
पॉइंट,
या
एक
या
पॉइंट।
इंग्लिश चैनल से ब्लैक सी तक की तैयारी करो।
आंदोलन जी, वैसे तो हमें इंडिया भी चाहिए, ठीक है। आप यूरोप की बात कर रहे हैं, वो तो हमें इंडिया भी चाहिए। कहने को तो कुछ भी कह सकते हैं, ठीक है। आप एक्चुअल रियलिटीज की बात करें जी। शाहजी, आई
भाई मैं
थिंक यू
आपको
वांट
ट्रेंड
टू।
दिखा रहा हूँ। मैं ये मैं थोड़ी ना
अच्छा,
कह रहा
मैं
हूँ
I
मेरा
want
यूरोप
to
से तो
point
कोई
something
लेना
out.
देना नहीं है। हाँ,
Andolan ji,
दोनों
you
चीजें
have to
एक
understand
अच्छा,
सेकंड,
one.
एक सेकेंड गाइस, आई विल गो टू शाहजी, देन मेड्यूसा, देन सिड, देन आंदोलन, ताकि सारे क्वेश्चंस आ जाए आंदोलन जी के पास।
Andolan ji, मेरा बहुत simple सा point है, and it's very simple. More than 300 Muslims consider Europe to be their home. If you include Russia as well as Turkey and the Eastern European countries, then that is more than 500 million Muslims. 500 million Muslims are going nowhere. And this is only going to unite them. If far right unites, so does the Muslims. And if the Muslims were to unite, this is going to be a very different category, because not only do we consider this part, this continent to be our home, we want it secure for our generations. We have a stake in the build up of what is created as Europe today. And it is a fact of matter. And I say that with utmost patriotism. If anyone was to move us out of this place, we are more educated than the Arabs collectively. We are more powerful than we know how to lobby. We know how to integrate. We know how to network. And this is going to be a hellhole for the Europeans to deal with us, not in terms of terrorism or anything or any kind of violence, but in sheer number of the kind of people. We've got people who are doing everyday odd jobs, and we've got people who are at the highest level in every part of society, from the police to the army to the political lobby rooms, to the committee rooms, to the bureaucracy, to the academia. And we are going to take this on. As far
एक
as what's
छोटा सा
happening
सवाल।
in Palestine, as far as what's happening in Palestine or the rest of the world is a different issue. This is chickens coming to roost at home, and we know how to deal with it. Don't consider us or judge us to be like Indian Muslims, or for that matter, the Palestinian Muslims. And the biggest thing is that Muslims in Europe ethnically belong to around the globe. That community consists of the Somalis, the Afghans, the Pakistanis, the Arabs, the Iranians. So what you're talking about is what you've never witnessed before. And that is going to be a
जी
surge which is going to basically bring Europe to its knees in that way. And we don't want that on our streets.
जी
If fear
मैं अब एक छोटा सा
possesses
पॉइंट
is
रख
there,
लूं।
we've been fighting them head to head for years, and we do not wish to stop right now either. Moving forward,
दैट्स
the fact
प्रिसाइसली
of
द
the
प्रॉब्लम
matter
शाहजी।
is,
हाँ,
can I complete? The fact
नहीं,
of the matter,
आंदोलन जी प्लीज।
the fact of the matter
थोड़ा
is
सा रिलैक्स
कि
करें.
ना हम एक थर्ड वर्ल्ड कंट्री से बिलोंग करते हैं जो इंडिया है, ना हम एक डिप्राइव डिक्टेटरशिप से बिलोंग करते हैं जो कोई सऊदी अरेबिया या कोई रिलीजियस एथनो बैकग्राउंड की कंट्री है. We are part and parcel of the Western civilization now, and we are going to fight our situation if it comes to that. And
जी
I was really hoping it does not occur. तो बाकी दुनिया भी फिर देखने के लिए हो जाए तैयार. एंड आई स्टेट दैट अभी तो स्टेटमेंट्स आएंगे, सईदा वारसी का है, सादिक खान का है, रोटरडैम के मेयर का है, फिर उसके अलावा आपका ओस्लो का जो मेयर है यूसुफ गिलानी, उनका स्टेटमेंट आया है. ठीक है, तो अभी अभी तो ये खाली आपको फोर्सेस ग्राउंड लेवल के ऊपर नजर आ रही हैं. एंड इट माइट सरप्राइज यू आंदोलन जी, many of the Hindus who are politicians are taking action in that as well, because in Europe we are connected, we are part and parcel of the same community directly and indirectly. So I think you're very much misreading the situation in context of the subcontinent and the Arab world. Sorry for taking a bit more time than usual.
जी
Thanks a
जी
lot.
आपने आपने
Thank you
मुझे
very much.
पूरा वो दे दिया, पर इसमें आपने थोड़ा सा वो
आंदोलन जी
ये भावनात्मक ज्यादा था।
आंदोलन जी, मैंने
एक
एक
तो
सीक्वेंस बनाया था. मैं अगर लाइक मेड्यूसा से आस्क कर लूं, अगर आंदोलन जी पहले चले जाए, आई विल कम बैक टू यू लेटर.
no no let
इट्स
let
क्वाइट
ठीक है,
मेडिएटिव.
Medusa go
I
first,
can go
yeah,
after
let
Andolan.
Medusa go first,
I
yeah.
can.
जी आंदोलन जी, प्लीज प्लीज गो
मैं
अहेड,
सिर्फ
प्लीज गो अहेड.
हाँ, तो इसमें इसमें देखिए, आपने तो मुझे पूरा बड़ा भावनात्मक सा आपने पूरा डिटेल मुझे बता दिया, लेकिन प्रैक्टिकल ग्राउंड सिचुएशन मैंने आपको बताई किस तरह से राइट विंग का रिसर्जेंस हो रहा है। इस्लामिक राइट विंग के कारण ये राइट विंग का कंसोलिडेशन हो रहा है। तो जो आप बता रहे हैं इस कंसोलिडेशन के कारण इस्लामिक कंसोलिडेशन होगा, नहीं, जो इसका ट्रिगर है वो इस्लामिक राइट विंग है, जो इस राइट विंग का कंसोलिडेशन हो रहा है। तो ये मैं पॉइंट शुरू से कंसिस्टेंटली बोल रहा हूं। जो 2-2 लाख आदमी का आप जुलूस निकाल रहे हो हर यूरोपियन सिटी में, यू आर थ्रेटनिंग, मतलब यू आर क्रिएटिंग अ थ्रेट परसेप्शन इन द माइंड ऑफ यूरोपियंस, राइट। मैं मेरा यूरोप पे कोई लेना देना नहीं, ना यूरोप की जमीन मेरी, ना मकान मेरा, ना दुकान मेरी। मैं केवल आपसे ये पॉइंट कह रहा हूं कि जब आप को एग्जिस्ट इस्टेब्लिश नहीं कर पा रहे हो, और ये केवल पैलेस्टीनियंस की बात नहीं है, ये पूरा मुस्लिम उम्मा वर्ल्ड ओवर उसको एग्जिस्टेंस को सपोर्ट करने की जगह विरोध कर रहा है रिवर टू द सी पे। तो यू शुड नॉट बी सरप्राइज्ड एट दिस, विच इज व्हाट आई एम सेइंग। बाकी रही बात इमिग्रेंट्स को लाने की, निकालने की, पाकिस्तान 1.8 मिलियन अफगान रेफ्यूजी को निकालना कोई कुछ नहीं कर पाएगा। निकाल देगा पाकिस्तान 1.5 मिलियन अफगान रेफ्यूजी को, कोई कुछ नहीं कर पाएगा।
जी थैंक यू. आई विल गो टू माहम.
I just wanted to thank you कि दोलन जी ने पहले ही बात कर ली, तो I would like to add something to it as well. First of all, when they say about the Palestinian Israeli issue, I don't think the Palestinian wants to kill all the Jews in Israel, right? They just want to get rid of the Zionist state, right? Their problem is the government, not the people. ठीक है. सेकेंड पॉइंट इज कि आप जो कह रहे हैं ना कि ये जो राइट विंग कंसोलिडेट हो रहा है उसकी वजह से, मुस्लिम राइट विंग्स की वजह से, मुस्लिम राइट विंग कौन है? The sect that Abdul Wahab made, Taliban, TTP, ISIS, Al Qaeda, these are the right wing of Muslims, right? Now, who created them? Who made the Mujahideen? Who made the whole concept of Taliban and suicide bombing and going for jihad? Who created that? Please, can someone name that country? Who created them? Because I'm sure they were not created by a Muslim country. They didn't do anything for a Muslim country. So, I mean, I would really like an answer for that. Who created the Mujahideen?
Ji,
I'm
Andolan
done.
ji, you would like to respond to that, or I would go to Sid?
Let's go to Sid.
Okay, Sid, please.
थैंक यू फुरकान भाई। तीन चार चीज़ें हैं जिसके ऊपर मैं पॉइंट आउट करना चाह रहा हूँ। पहले तो जो आंदोलन जी ने कहा है ना कि अगर हम कहते हैं रिवर टू द सी पैलेस्टाइन वुड बी फ्री, देन वी शुड एक्सपेक्ट फ्रॉम द चैनल टू द ब्लैक सी यूरोप वुड बी फ्री ऑफ मुस्लिम्स। दोनों चीज़ें कंसिस्टेंट नहीं हैं। These two things are not the same. One is speaking about getting rid of an oppressive regime. You have to understand the difference between a people and a state. and an apartheid state at that. And the other one is talking about kicking out a people based on their belief system. आप लोगों को शायद इस चीज की पता, बल्कि एक्चुअली सिंस यू आर Hindu, you should understand the concept of ethnocentricity. इसराइल की प्रॉब्लम एथनोसेंट्रिसिटी है. They are killing the local people on the basis of ethnocentricity. Islam is not an ethnicity. It is a religion. आप जिस वक्त ऑर्थोडॉक्स ज्यूज से पूछेंगे कि आपका क्या व्यू है इसराइल के बारे में, वो कहेंगे कि ये एक सेक्युलर स्टेट है. It is not a Judaic state. And I would go as far as saying, if you want to see the fruits of secularism and in regards to how violent it can be, well, Israel is an example. उसके बाद जब आप ये कहते हैं कि इस्लाम मुस्लिम कंट्रीज के अंदर जो सा इमिग्रेशन वगैरह का जो सा लॉज उस तरीके से नहीं है जिस तरह यूरोप में है, सो व्हाट आर यू क्रिटिकिंग सऊदी अरेबिया? I'll critique them with you. Are you critiquing UAE? I will critique them with you. But you are not doing that. What you are doing is you're trying to critique Islamic legislation, which you, by the way, have no idea about what it is. And everything that you have stated about the Islamic coexisting system is a blatant lie and an opposition to what we actually do state. Why are you, यानी कि एक तो चीज होती है प्रोपोगंडा, आप ब्लेटेंट लाई क्यों कर रहे हैं? यू आर बेटर देन दैट.
या मैं यहाँ पे एक चीज
अच्छा
ऐड करूंगी. सिड
जी जी
मैं सिड की बात पे एक चीज सिर्फ ऐड कर रही हूँ फुरकान भाई. ये जो सिड ने बात की ना कि इथनोसेंट्रिक जो भी मसला है उनका, आई जस्ट वांट टू पॉइंट दिस आउट टू listeners and to Andolan ji that there is a story in Bible. In Judaism there is a story of David and Goliath. ठीक है, David is a Jew who later becomes a king, right? A Jewish king, and Goliath is a Palestinian. And you need to understand that Islam did not exist at that point. So the Palestinian and Jewish issue, it goes way beyond religion and way back. That's all I'm saying. I'm done. Thank you.
जी okay, we are entering the last 20 minutes of the live session. I would again ask the same question. We have seen कि अगर वो पार्टी comes in power, क्या होगा क्या नहीं होगा, but if it happens, Muslim world में उसका reception क्या होगा? I know Shah mentioned a few people giving certain statements who are in office or in power. Shah, I would go directly to you. आप बताएं कि what
I would like to first address the previous statement which Andolan made in a very short way. And that is that when he said that the far right is in power because of the Muslims being in power, that is actually incorrect. The far right started garnering its muscle in the 1970s. एक बंदा था Enoch Powell, who was basically a conservative leader. उसकी rivers of blood वाली अगर आप speech देखें, तो what you will see and what you will find out is why the far right got activated, specifically against immigrants who were coming from certain countries at that time, including India, regardless of their faith, whether they were Muslims or Hindus. है ना? अब दूसरी बात यह है कि रिवर्स ऑफ ब्लड को जब आप देखते हैं तो उसको गियर्ट विल्डर्स भी रेफर करता है, लपेन भी रेफर करती है, डोनाल्ड ट्रंप ने भी उसको मेंशन किया है, पीपल लाइक अयान अली हिरसी have quoted them, people like Majid Nawaz have quoted them. एंड जिस चीज को आप फार राइट कह रहे हैं मुसलमानों का, एंड दैट इज व्हाई आई सेड द कैटल ऑफ फिश इन यूरोप एंड द वेस्ट इन टर्म्स ऑफ मुस्लिम इज वेरी वेरी डिफरेंट. जिन लोगों की आप बात कर रहे हैं उनको बैन करने के लिए it's majority of the Muslim community who campaigned. अगर फॉर एग्जांपल अल कायदा और इन जगहों की आप बात करें तो यूरोप के अंदर ये लोग नहीं एग्जिस्ट करते इन मेजोरिटी। जो और जिन लोगों की मैं बात कर रहा हूँ, अगर आप सादिक खान को फार राइट समझते हैं तो हैट्स ऑफ टू यू। अगर आप सईदा वारसी को या लिंडा सारसोर को क्रॉस द पॉन्ड इस तरह की चीजें समझते हैं तो अगेन हैट्स ऑफ टू यू। आई थिंक यू आर वेरी मच अनअवेयर। अगर आप इन लोगों के बैकग्राउंड्स देखें एंड द काइंड ऑफ स्टफ दे हैव एडवोकेटेड, उसके अंदर द फर्स्ट पीपल वी वर calling out, or these people were calling out to be more accurate, were people of the Muslim community. They vetted those people out कि कौन कौन एक्सट्रीमिस्ट था, कौन कौन नहीं था, कौन सी ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस को बैंड होना चाहिए, कौन सी को नहीं होना चाहिए। तो अंदोलन जी जब आप ये वाली बात कहते हैं तो 1960s के अंदर तो ना अभी लॉकबी बॉम्बिंग्स हुई थी, ना अभी 9/11 हुआ था, ना अभी 7/7 की बॉम्बिंग्स हुई थी, ना मड्रिड का कोई इशू था, ना कोई इस टाइप की बातें चल रही थी। तो उस वक्त तो सोवियत एरा का टाइम था जो एज अ मेन एनिमी, सोवियट्स वर द मेन एनिमी। और उस टाइम तो मुसलमानों के साथ बहुत अच्छा सलूक था, लेकिन द फार राइट वाज स्टिल एडवोकेटिंग द सेम काइंड ऑफ रिटोरिक which they have। तो रिवर्स ऑफ ब्लड को जरूर आप देखिएगा, इनोक पॉल को जरूर सर्च कीजिएगा, आपके इल्म के अंदर इजाफा होगा। And why I say the Muslims residing in the West are a very different kettle of fish is because we know the West inside out. We're part and parcel of that game. We know कि कौन राइट के ऊपर है और कौन लेफ्ट के ऊपर है। वी नो कि किस तरीके से उन चीज़ों से डील करना है, एंड वी आर अवेयर इनफ कि वी आर नॉट गोइंग टू फॉल अंडर द हैंड्स ऑफ एनी काइंड ऑफ वायलेंस एंड टेररिज्म, एंड वी कैन फाइट आवर वॉर विदाउट दैट। तो डोंट टेक इट लाइक अ थिंग इन इंडिया जहाँ पे आप जो मर्जी कर लेंगे मुसलमानों के साथ या किसी और जगह पे। तो
चले
इट्स अ वेरी डिफरेंट स्टोरी।
शाह
थैंक
जी
यू।
मेरा मेरा पॉइंट वो नहीं था। हाँ, बस
अंदर जी मैं आपका पॉइंट लूंगा। एक क्वेश्चन शाह मेरा आपसे एक और होगा। मेरा ख्याल है मुस्लिम कंट्रीज को छोड़ के आई वुड आस्क जो कि लेफ्ट की पार्टीज हैं उनका क्या रिएक्शन होगा इस तरह की पॉलिसीज पे। नॉट जस्ट द मुस्लिम लेफ्ट, ठीक है, ओवरऑल लेफ्ट इट्स अ ह्यूज सेगमेंट ऑफ द सोसाइटी, पॉलिटिकली स्ट्रांग है, बाकी हैं लिविंग इन यूरोप, आपको पता है। तो what would that reaction be? And I don't think so they would agree to such policies. आपका क्या ओपिनियन है इस पे?
The thing is that the left was taken over by the woke community in the West, but it's quickly shedding itself away from the wings of the woke community, and people are on a very concurrent way stating that these things need to go. And once the left in the West begins to talk about real issues, which they have started to do so because they see that it's becoming a threat. It's going to come back to these issues. It already has started. People like Jeremy Corbyn, who were not elected in the last elections, are fast garnering support again. If you look at the youth, socialism is vastly at rise, and it's more issue based. People are questioning colonialism again. In many ways, the empirical stories which they were unaware about their own countries. What you see right now in academia, left ke andar, especially under the age, people who are under the age of 30, आपको वो various slave owners और different लोगों के statues who were supposed to be very respectable people, उनके monuments को remove करते हुए protest के अंदर जा रहे हैं। Ironically, एक recent survey हुआ था with all the British university all together, right? और उसके अंदर उन्होंने क्वेश्चन क्या किया था कि what would you rather have, freedom of expression or the right to feel comfortable? और उसका resultant था in more than 80% of the people, we would want comfort and personal space for every individual rather than them being uncomfortable and being bothered by someone's speech in per se। तो आपको ये शिफ्ट नजर आ रहा है, ये शिफ्ट चलता है। द पीपल हु वी ग्रू अप विद, उनके साथ आपकी रातों रात दुश्मनियां तो नहीं हो जाएंगी। बचपन के दोस्त यार हैं, बिजनेस पार्टनर्स हैं, लोगों की शादियां हुई हुई हैं आपस में, एक इंटीग्रेशन का लेवल है, सोसाइटी के ग्रुप्स के अंदर वो घुसे हुए हैं. They're not going to take it down like that. It's not that way, and it's very different. Like I said, Europe is a very different kettle of fish, both to Americas in that way, as well as to what happened in the Middle East and what's occurring in India or China for that matter.
जी मैं
I think
इस
I
पे
think it's time. Ek second, Andolan ji, ek second. Give me a minute. I think it's time to wrap up. I guess so. Andolan ji,
Okay,
let's
final
just make it
comment.
your
So,
last
Melissa, to address
statement.
your
Yes,
point, which you
please.
said about the Israel-Palestine historic issue, of course, the Israel-Palestine issue is much before Islam came into existence, right? But the current support for Palestinian coming in from the Muslim population is because of the fact that Palestinians are Muslims, not because the entire global Islamic ummah sympathizes with 3,000-year-old dispute of Gentiles and Jews, right? So that's point number one, which you need to understand. Point number two, the left attitude towards Islamic persecution. Look at the persecution of Muslims in China, 2 million odd, right? Probably, if anywhere in any part of the globe, if Muslims are being mistreated in the worst possible form, and there I would also agree that of no fault of theirs, is China, right? What has the global ummah been able to do? Nothing much, right? So try to understand. I'm not trying to say there are a lot of places Indians or Hindus are being marginalized, or this thing. We are not able to do much. A lot of places Christians are prosecuted. The global Christian ummah, despite of being in power in many places, not able to do much except for maybe write a report or two, or publish couple of articles about it. Point which I'm making is not pro Islam or anti Islam, not pro Europe, not anti Europe. What I'm just asking you to consider and think about it. You can expect the same treatment what you offer to somebody else. So if you believe in coexistence, you have to demonstrate it in your societies across the globe as well. That's the limited point I'm making. Nothing more.
So, by that logic, if a Hindu does anything in or for किसी भी रिलीजन से हो, कहीं भी दुनिया में कुछ पॉलिसी गलत ला रहा है, तो उसका इम्पैक्ट किसी और बंदे को जिसका कोई ताल्लुक नहीं उस
मिलता
पॉलिसी
है.
से या उससे, no, that doesn't make any sense to me at least.
No,
मैं
well,
I'll go.
so you're talking two different things. You're talking an ideal situation and you're talking a practical situation. If tomorrow India chooses to convert into Hindu Rashtra and ask all other religious practice to be stopped in India, then I, as an Hindu staying in India, should not expect that US would grant my temples to be run in a Christian society. Then, as a Hindu, I would not expect, Pakistan to protect my temples.
For आपके
Right?
लिए
I would
Furkan
only
bhai,
expect
Furkan
that.
bhai,
Just yeah.
Furkan bhai. These are just
okay,
the
yeah,
last comments.
जी
So
जी
please give your last
जी,
comments.
thank you Andolan. I think I'll go to Shaji wanted to say something, and please give your last comment, Shaji.
I think I'm just going to wrap up from my side. The fact is that this is something which is extremely different from what people who think that this is different from what's occurred in the past in Europe. They just need to check what happened in the Second World War. Andolanji keeps repeating what's happening in Palestine. He fails to realize Jews are there only because of Hazrat Umar's plea that to the Christians when they obtained the Holy Lands कि आप ज्यूस को वापस आने दें और अपना भी प्रैक्टिस करें और मुसलमानों को भी आने दें. So last time I checked, the only people who removed the Jews from your continent of Europe all the way up till Black Sea were the Jews, and even they were not successful. Europeans failed completely in that way. So वो तो कुछ मिलियन लोग थे. move 500 million people around. Where are you going to send them? They don't have a home country. आप यूरोप के हार्ट के अंदर एक इंडिपेंडेंट मुसलमान मुल्क अफोर्ड कर सकते हैं? Because that's what you're advocating. Because they're going nowhere. 500 मिलियन लोग अगर इकट्ठे हुए, वो कहीं पे पाकिस्तान इंडिया की, तो उनके पास नेशनैलिटीज नहीं है, उनको तो ये कंट्रीज नहीं एक्सेप्ट करेंगी. What next? A country of immigrants, just like, oh, that resonates somewhere. ये तो United States का केस है. A country made by immigrants in the heart of somebody's own land, because ethnically they came as migrants for whatever reason, don't have a country to return. वो जगह कहाँ पे लेंगे? यूरोप में. यूरोप में जगह देगा यूरोप? What choice do they have? Let's see. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you. Thank you, Shaji. Sid, I'll go directly to you for your closing remarks.
In my closing remarks, I would just like to say that if the far right in Europe is thinking about doing something that the Nazis did in the past, just like Shaji said, it's not going to happen. I don't think that we should fear it. Reason being, uh, there were 9 million Jews, we are 500 million. And we multiply, we don't add into our family. And we're in the right trajectory according to the statistics. Secondly, uh, in regards to how people assume that we do not know how to coexist because we are Muslims. People like Great Wilders, I think that they do not understand how to these are not secular people in that scenario because they do not basically understand how to separate state from religion. Saudi Arabia is a state, and they are not even saying that what they are doing or their laws are especially their laws that dictate their foreign affairs. They don't even say that they are basing them on Islamic principles. If you are going to be critiquing Muslims or Islam, at least do it on Muslims and Islam. Don't do it on a state. And I think that the best way forward for the Muslims and all the other minorities in Europe, uh, whether these minorities are racial minorities or they are religious minorities, is uh, to bring them, to force the far right into a situation where they have to have a dialogue face to face, where they blatantly say what their problems with the opposing party are and for what reasons. And I think that if we can bring them on the table to discuss their insecurities, they can be identified. And I think by just saying them out loud, they would at least 20% be resolved.
Okay, I
Uh,
guess Furkan bhai, you're next.
yeah, I would just make it really brief. मुझे ये नजर आ रहा है there would be natural allies अगर something of this magnitude happen जो कि इन्हीं की सोसाइटी से निकल के आएंगे, and that's the beauty of the West. And I foresee that happening, and Shah also highlighted a certain perspective on that. Last dialogue यही है यार कि निकाल सको तो निकाल लो यार, चले जाएंगे वापस लेकिन होगा नहीं, मेरा नहीं ख्याल कि ये हिला भी सकते हैं, कुछ कर भी सकते हैं. It's something which are political jargons, और ये भी जो इसे मेजोरिटी मिली है, ये अपना स्टांस डाइल्यूट किया इसने. आई थिंक इट वाज शाह या सेट, किसने मेंशन किया था कि लाइक इसने अपना स्टांस चेंज किया, इसका स्टांस पैलेस्टीन पे, बाकी पे. देन ही गॉट सर्टेन सीट्स एंड दैट हैज बीन
नहीं नहीं
रिपोर्टेड.
नहीं 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 नहीं, उसने चेंज नहीं किया. उसको पावर में आने के लिए निगोशिएट करना पड़ेगा,
जी
जितना मैंने
जी
change नहीं हुआ.
जी जी
बट
एग्जैक्टली.
अनलेस के सम अगर राइट की साइड पे और ज्यादा ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस या पार्टीज उससे एग्री कर जाएं, फिर नहीं. टाइम विल टेल. It's a few days away. Sorry about the interjection.
या आई एग्री. आई थिंक they have to see कि ताकि इनका सोशल फैब्रिक इस तरह नहीं है कि राइट अगर हवा चली है सारे उधर चले they have certain perspectives on how life should be in Europe, and that is very open in certain ways. अगर मैं crudely इसे define करूँ जी
Okay, I guess this is the end of the show. I'm just going to say that Andolanji made it sound like all Muslim countries are anti other religions. That's not true. There are many Muslim countries where non Muslims are living very peacefully. I know there are problematic sites as well. Like, for example, Afghanistan, even in Pakistan, if you say there are temples and our government do our level best to protect them, but yes, there are situations, there are bad people everywhere, right? And there are countries which do not mind any Hindus or any Christians or any other community. So that's not exactly true. Two or three countries do not. There are 57 Muslim countries. Two or three countries do not define Islam or Muslims. Secondly, as far as I can see, this whole situation is going towards what happened to the Jews. I mean, it's like some kind of a European hobby where they catch this one community and then they decide to murder most of them. But I guess that's the history of the world. I mean, a lot of people have done it to their own people, and then a lot of people have done it to the other people. Uh, we will see, I guess, what's going to happen, because at this time, what happened in the past was because there was no internet. People, it was not a global village, and people did not know about each other. There was not much power at that time, and I think social media is, in that sense, very powerful. We get to hear everything, we get to see everything, and I think it will make a lot of difference. And what happened to the Jews in Europe, it won't exactly be repeated with Muslims, but they will make Muslim life very hard, and hence it will be extended for far longer time than Nazis did. So yeah, so I guess this is the end of the show. Thank you for listening to us. Thank you for joining us. Thank you to all the hosts. And subscribe the channel, press the bell button so that you can regularly get updates of our debates, which is about religious. Usually we're doing current affair these days, and we would be doing history, religion, and there are going to be fun stuff as well. So yeah, subscribe the channel, and I guess we'll see you later. Khudafis, goodbye, have a nice day.